Okay, this one's gonna be interesting. I have the Fly Superlace 2 gloves. These are obviously in the black and gold, and these are gloves that are in 16 ounces. The 16-ounce indicator will be right here on the inside of the glove. As you can see, it'll say 16. It'll say made in Britain, right? Just so we have an understanding where it's actually made, the tag there. This glove, before I get into the weight, because I think that's probably the hardest part to talk about, I was really excited for these gloves. And the truth is I've had the Fly X line, the first one that came out. And those gloves I thought were so amazing. I had them in white, and even though they were, obviously synthetic leather, they were still really great gloves. And everything about the glove I really liked, but I sold them along with a pair of 1v1 Arc Ones gloves, so then I could, essentially have money for these. And the reason why I did that is because obviously, the Fly has a newer version of the glove, so I didn't want to obviously review an older glove. So these ones, very interested in them because they were the premium version of the glove, right? So the Superlace is very premium. So obviously these gloves are made in the UK. That's probably a big reason why I wanted to buy them, to check out how the leather feels. In terms of the leather itself, it's very high quality, honestly, and it has a nice texture to it and a really nice smell to it. So the leather, they describe it as a high quality top grade leather, and it is. It has a nice thickness to it. It's a very nice, very nice leather. I think it's very supple. It's very it feels really nice of a leather. So I'm really impressed with the leather of the glove. Definitely a good quality glove in terms of that. In terms of the padding, it's obviously a layered foam padding. I not necessarily know what the layering is. And the reason why I didn't dig too deep into it, because I feel like this is more not so much as a full length review, but more of a first impressions of the glove. Essentially, I got these gloves not necessarily from Fly, but from Box Up Nation, which is a really great place to get gloves. I get a lot of gloves from Box Up Nation. Really impressed with how quick they are with the shipping and all that types of stuff. So I do love getting gloves from them. This is an interesting review because I don't think I can keep these gloves, essentially, because these gloves are $434 on the website, and they're a little more expensive when it comes to on the Fly website, which is going to be about $442, and then you add the shipping, which is probably going to be around $20 or so. And there's just a lot of imperfections, but I'll get to that in a second. When it comes to the liner, it has this really nice silky polyester liner, really nice, and it's very smooth. It's very silky in there, so it feels very premium on the inside, and obviously on the leather portion it feels very premium as well. So this glove itself feels very premium. When it comes to the laces, they're very good, nice, decent sized laces, and they're rounded. They're not flat. I like that a lot. They don't have too much stretch. It's a very minimal stretch. So the laces are durable, and that's a really good thing as well. I do want to get to the stitching of the glove. The stitching looks pretty good everywhere. It's double stitched pretty much essentially everywhere, as you can see on this portion of the glove. Very double stitched even on the grip bar here. And on the back side, which is really good, that they have double stitching on the top of the cuff, and obviously on this X pattern here that Fly has done since forever. But I will get into some of the imperfections I see here. Ultimately, what I see here, I don't know if you can see it, but one of the first things I noticed about the glove was that this Fly logo was pushed over. It's not exactly centered. This is more centered on the glove. The Fly logo is kind of pushed over to the right here on this side. This one's a little more centered, but it's still not exactly centered fully. but this one is better than this one in terms of where the logo is. I don't know if you can notice. Also, when it comes down to even this portion on the cuff, you can see in terms of the X portion, the X is here. It meets right here. So you can see that the X portion is actually, not centered as well. Not a humongous deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is something that I have to address, that this one's more centered than this one is in terms of the X lace here. Now, the biggest thing for me is that this glove is supposed to be 16 ounces. And I want to actually weigh these. I don't know if you could see it because I know that there's a lot of light here. But I'll weigh them here just so I have a better understanding on where they are. Okay. All right. So I am going to weigh this glove. And this glove, for a 16-ounce glove, is going to come in at 14.43. Okay, now, and this glove as well, I'm going to weigh this one, wrap it around, and this one's going to come in at a 14.25. Let me see if I can get it higher. 14.29. Let me try this again just because I want to make sure I get this right, because that's really low. So let's see. No. Let me get the laces inside the glove. And let's try this again to make sure that we are completely accurate here. And I'm going to go. Okay, so 14.32, which is what I got before. So obviously, I don't know what happened here. And the glove is over $400. You would assume that the quality control would be better. I can't go into any type of gym ever and, go in there saying that these gloves are 16 ounces, but they really weigh, 14 ounces. It's a huge deal for me. And it's just disappointing because, like I said, I had the Fly X gloves, and I thought those gloves were incredible. And I just really thought that this was going to obviously outdo that because it's a premium version of the glove. And I thought that no matter what was going to happen, this glove was probably going to be so amazing. And in a lot of ways, it is. It feels great. But that is such a huge deal that I have to make sure that I put that out there. All right. So in terms of the design of the glove, I love the design. It looks great. I will say that it looks like it's kind of soft everywhere on the glove. Everywhere on the glove is soft. It feels like, the glove hasn't been fully, padded fully. And just overall, if I were to, the floppiness of the glove, I'm holding the glove and it's sagging dramatically in the top portion. So it doesn't have a good, in terms of being top heavy, it's very top heavy. The wrist protection of the glove is extremely soft. I mean, it's almost non-existent at this point. It has some padding, but it's very, very minimal in terms of padding. It is very minimal in terms of padding on the inside, and I don't know if this is just this glove. So I don't want to essentially think that this is the kind of, this is going to be all of the gloves. It's just in my experience that so far this glove is very flimsy. It feels, like, it just feels like it has a lot of give. Look at all that. Look at all that. Look at all that leather I'm pinching here. It just seems like a lot. In terms of the design itself, the thumb is very, very large compared to the other thumb that was on the original model before the twos. This thumb is straightforward. It's not exactly curved like the other one is, and it's very large. It has a really good opening here in terms of the piping on the thumb compartment, which is also different than the originals as well. It's very, very, I think they improved the thumb a lot on here because the thumb is comfortable as well. I like the old ones as well, but this thumb seems like it'd be more comfortable for different people. Like I said, this is the same type of pattern here. It differs from the original because this is going to be a little further upward. They made the cuff a little bigger, but it's very, honestly, not that noticeable. And yeah, in terms of the logo, like I said before, really nice logo. The style of the glove is really nice. It looks sharp. It looks very premium, but you know, you would assume that with the money you spend, that it has to be almost perfect at that price point. So, in terms of the grip bar, I'm going to talk about the grip bar because there are no air holes. As you can see in this glove, there are no air holes. I wish there were, but they don't have any. It's not a huge deal because the liner itself is a very, very good liner, and it doesn't make you sweat like crazy. But no air holes on this glove. The grip bar is, in my opinion, extremely small and extremely soft. And I'm not a big fan of that as well. I wish that the grip bar just had a little bit more. But as you can see, it's very soft. I'm actually moving it around, and it's very thin. So I don't really feel it too much when I'm putting my hands inside the glove. Now, in terms of just the overall sizing of the glove, I would say this glove is kind of on the medium to larger side. In my opinion, I think that they have a decent height, but they're also kind of decent in terms of bigger to me than the originals, in my opinion. But it's, you know, it's not a humongous glove. It just, especially if you put it to the side, you'll see that the glove is very thin in terms of this side. But just in terms of the height and the kind of the width on this end, you might find it, you know, maybe a tad bit. I would say it's medium, but maybe you might find it medium to the tad bit large, in my opinion. But, you know, that's just everybody's, whatever they might want to think about the glove. Now, in terms of the overall just feel of the inside of the glove, when I put my hand inside, the one thing I notice is that the liner is very cooling, and it's very silky feeling, and the glove itself is extremely, extremely soft. So I noticed that, well, just right off the bat. Once I put my thumb in there, I see that there's a serious ton of space for my thumb to move around. My thumb's actually moving around quite a lot right here in the thumb position here, and that's okay. I like that because it gives you movement in the thumb. No problem there. When it comes to just overall the punch dynamics of the glove, you can see right there, I'm not clinching down, or I'm not moving my hands up. This is just essentially how the glove is. It's extremely broken in, at least mine is, and it just opens and closes with very little ease. So it does it very easily. So this is an extremely, you know, malleable glove. It feels not malleable. I would say it's like, you know, just ultimately your hands they don't feel like you actually have to put any effort in to actually maneuvering your hands in this glove. The hand compartment itself is pretty big. I would say it's large. I'll definitely put it in that large category. I feel like you could definitely put a person with big hands has no problem with this type of hand compartment. As you can see, even this portion right here, I have like 2 inches on the side of this. If I really wanted to push my hands all the way to the right, I'm not even touching my hands here. This is just the glove. So ultimately, there's a lot of space inside of the glove. Like I said, I don't know if this is just my glove. There's a ton of space in here, and I feel like that's just good for a lot of people that have bigger hands, essentially, but I'm not sure, right? In terms of the fingertip compartment, I'll find out that there is kind of like a portion that's kind of a rolled up portion here, and it acts as a kind of a smaller secondary grip bar. It just feels like a rolled up piece of leather at this a little bit, and it does work. But like I said, the grip bar on the palm version is so small and so soft, I don't feel it at all. It almost feels like the glove itself doesn't have a grip bar. So that's that. Fingertips feel good, they're comfortable. Thumb feels good, they're comfortable. Hand itself feels really good, very comfortable, very roomy, roomier than the originals for sure. So that's that. In terms of the pop of the glove, it is, you know, we're talking about a multi-layer foam glove, so we're not going to get the biggest. Like, this punch surface isn't that large. As you can see, like, you know, it's a rounded punch surface, and it just feels a little, it just feels rounded. So essentially, like, there's a smaller punch surface here, so you're probably not going to get the big feedback that you normally would get unless you really broke these gloves in, which I think is very possible. And the reason why I haven't done that is because I'm not sure yet if I'm keeping the gloves, because of the weight discrepancy is so bad that I feel like I have to, you know, essentially have to return these, or essentially have to get a refund. Which is, like I said, not something I think that Fly does. I think this is just an anomaly. I'm not saying that they do this all the time, but I'm just giving an honest review on the glove. In terms of this round punch surface, the feedback, there's definitely feedback there. It definitely feels, I feel it on my knuckles. It's not necessarily something I don't feel on my knuckles. I feel like it makes a decent noise. In terms of the padding itself, I feel like it's a nice medium. As I'm touching it here, you could see that I could be able to push down, and I could somewhat, I don't think I could touch my knuckles because my knuckles are kind of back here. You know, I think my knuckles are somewhere back here, so there's this much space. There's so much space between the your knuckles and the actual portion where you're going to actually hit. It does a good job at stopping it slowly, not like abruptly. It's not like soft and hard. It has a nice, you know, push down. You push down, it just slowly will start to absorb the blow. So in terms of that, I think it's a really, really good medium. I think it's a very, very good medium in terms of that. Like I said before, open, close extremely well. I wish there was air holes, because what happens is when you open and close, I could actually feel the air pulling out from my forearm here. When I do this, I feel air. So that's interesting, but just keep that in mind. So ultimately, when it comes to the performance, I can't say much about it because I don't want to use these. I don't want to beat them up on the back, or I don't want to do anything like that. I wanted to give a first impression review because I think I have to return them. And I'm not so sure I want to go and exchange them for a different one, because I'm not, I don't know. It was just a high price, and I'm kind of a little worried that it'll happen to me again. But I know that a lot of people love these gloves. I know a lot of reviewers out there, they think their gloves are really great. In terms of, you know, just the fit and feel of the glove, I think they feel amazing. When I put my hands on the glove, they feel amazing. The leather, it feels amazing. But, you know, the quality control, there's a problem. And at least in these gloves, which is very, 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 very rare in my opinion. I would think it should be rare with a glove of this caliber, some of the best gloves in the world. But I did this review so I could be 100% honest. You know, I didn't want to return them and then not review them, because I thought maybe I would have said something that wasn't so, you know, wasn't the best thing. But these gloves have a lot of great things going for it. But there are humongous issues with the weight. If I ever went to a gym and I used the 14-ounce glove that says 16 ounce on it, I'd probably be kicked out of the gym. And that's just the way it goes. In terms of how thick the padding is, it's thin. It's not that thick. As you can see here, you probably notice that it's not, you know, the thickest padding. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe they gave me like a 14-ounce padding and a 16-ounce mold or something. I don't know. But clearly these are definitely very close to 14 ounces, and they're extremely far off from 16 ounces. In terms of the price, I would say that, you know, these gloves, like I said before, United States, if you buy them on the Fly website, in the US is $442 in dollars, and it's $20+ in shipping. That's very expensive, but I do think that if these gloves were on weight, and, you know, the logo wasn't so pushed over to the side here, and this portion wasn't so, it was perfect. Like, if everything on this glove was perfect, I wouldn't mind that price, because I feel like the glove is actually really great quality. it's just unfortunate that I didn't get that great quality. Like, I didn't get that, not great quality. I think it's great quality. I just didn't get that. It wasn't perfect for me in terms of, what it could have been. So yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are, I think this is a fantastic glove, and I'm sure a lot of people have really, really, really good reviews of this glove, and they think they're very, very good, really good gloves. But in my opinion, I think I just got a little bit of the issue here, a little bit of a problem in terms of whether or not this glove was, made properly. But, in my opinion, these are, supposed to be gloves that are, really good for sparring, and ultimately that was probably more or less what the glove will be for. And I can't get off of that, being almost 2 ounces under, because that's not a good sparring glove if that is the case. And I don't think, when I look at other reviews, most people don't have that same, the same issue. So I'm being honest about it. And there are issues. I think that, like I said before, if you do get a good glove, and these are great, I think the quality is great. I just think that, I just didn't get the best deal right now. But that's not to say these aren't great gloves, because I don't want people to think that I think these aren't great gloves, because I wanted these gloves so much. And, it's just unfortunate. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. When you get all these gloves in life, you're going to probably get a pair that's not great, and you're going to be disappointed. But, ultimately, it's kind of like a lottery at some points. So that is my review. I think that, don't take my review too hard. I think that if you do buy these gloves, I'm sure they'll probably come closer to weight, and I think that they'll be very, very good in terms of how it feels automatically. But I definitely couldn't use them, because I think ultimately I have to return them. But anyways, that's my review.